These are the jobs you may not see every day, but just know we're working hard to make Hillsborough County a better place to live, work, and play. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more great county-related videos, only on HTV.
Flossing in the morning is a really great way to keep your teeth healthy and start the day. But when you're through, here's what you do. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. There's a problem lots of people don't know, called sanitary sewer overflow. A condition buried deep in the ground, inside of pipes where bad clogs are found. It's a problem we can all help solve, so throw it in the trash, don't flush it. Baby wipes, bandages, cotton pads, paper towels, dental floss, clog up bad. Medicines, kitty litter, cotton swabs, hair. Throw them in the trash, don't flush it. It just takes a second to do the right thing, so toss it and let's keep our pipes clean. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. If it's not toilet paper, don't flush it. Even if it says you can, don't flush it. If you're having any doubts, don't flush it. One more time, don't flush it.
Oh man, here comes Arnie again.
Check this out. What's up, Arnie? What are you doing? You made a mess in my hallway. Hey, Arnie. Looks like you could use a hand. Let me help you.
You don't need superpowers to be a hero. Help make Hillsborough bully-free.
Tampa Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag? You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look, no plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit tampabayrecycles.org.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Hillsborough County Commission on Human Trafficking meeting, August 19th at 2 p.m. I want to call the meeting to order and do a roll call and determination of quorum. Ms. Heather Curry will help us out with that. Thank you. Is your mic? There you go. Okay, go ahead.
Commissioner Kimberly Overman.
Here.
Captain Jeffrey Harris. Is that a yes? Okay. IRS Corey Valdez. Lee Burkaw.
Here.
Karen Perez. I believe she'll be joining us, but she may be late. Charles Klug. Andrew Warren. Jennifer Gleister.
Here.
Santiago Corrada.
Here.
Connie Rose.
Here.
Kathleen Kemke.
Here.
Brina Fields Taylor. Dottie Groover Skipper.
Here.
Elizabeth Gutierrez.
Here.
Captain Rob Staley. Corporal Gerald Baker.
Okay, thank you. And it does not, we need, let's see, one.
I'm here. I'm Karen Perez.
Oh,
Thank you for joining us. And I'm very proud to see that you're still alive after yesterday. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
It doesn't appear as though there's a quorum in the room, given the size of our board. So we won't be able to vote on things today, but there's a lot of information that needs to get out to the members, and good work that's being done. So I wanted to make sure we brought that up. As we've heard everyone's name, and I also have Joining us today is Rob Parkinson. He's going to do a presentation during my chair's report. But, and we have minutes that are in your packet that's been sent out for October, December, February, and April of this year. But unfortunately, without a quorum, we're unable to vote on those items for approval. But maybe we'll get it done next time. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the remainder of 2021. We have in your packet 2 dates that are on our calendar as it stands right now: Thursday, October 28th, and Thursday, December 9th. Those 2 Thursdays, we're working with communications on scheduling a time certain, but it seems as though 1 or 1:30 or 2 is in the range of times that we're able to coordinate with communications to make sure that our hybrid meetings are still available and that they're available for viewing for the general public. That being said, I'd like for everyone to take a look at what we've set up as a framework for our meetings. They have been historically 6 meetings a year with alternating around the state meetings in order to allow our members to participate or at least be able to view the statewide human trafficking meetings. And also recognizing that there's an annual conference that the state attorney has, our attorney general has scheduled, which is actually on the bottom of your agenda for today. In my chair's report, there is a couple of items that are listed there. The first is to go over what we have in the way of budget for the effort on human trafficking. There is a line item for human trafficking that the Board of County Commission has included in its 2022 budget, which is still in the works. And it is due to be approved in September by the whole board. But right now, there's 2 items that I wanted the board to be aware of. We have set aside in the regular budget the budget for human trafficking initiatives, and that is approximately $350,000 a year, and as a recurring to cover the staff support, and other initiatives that need to occur. And then secondarily, in our conversations, in our working groups, and at the board, at the main board, we've talked about trying to find a way to address the concerns that we have for our human trafficking victims or survivors, to give them the support they need as they move through the legal process. And in those conversations, I felt it was important to make sure that if we were going to do something, that we had money to do something with. So in this year's budgetary flag meeting, where each board member were able to present an idea or an initiative that they would like to see additional funds outside of our normal estimated budget, I put in approximately $100,000 that's set aside towards that effort so that we could see how we could address making sure that the individuals that had been impacted and were in the legal system had the support they needed. With that in mind, started working, having great conversations. The staff started working on solutions on how we could work through that. And I've asked and invited Rob Parkinson to kind of give us a framework of the options that we've taken a look at. And then based on my item being approved by the BOCC, I would like to make a recommendation on how we move forward. But I wanted to make sure the entire board heard it and had an opportunity to chime in on what our options look like, and then make a recommendation to the Board of County Commission for funding.
Thank you, Commissioner. As reported, Commissioner Overman has secured $100,000 to support a human trafficking court liaison type position. The county budget is in the process of being finalized, and at this juncture, the Commission needs to provide feedback on what model should be used for the position. Historically, the BOCC has supported 3 different types of models, including court administration provided service, a provider nonprofit provided service, and other criminal justice stakeholder positions providing that service. So for an example, for a court position, we have historically funded the civil citation coordination aspect of our civil citation program. There's strengths and weaknesses to each model. Obviously, with the court position, we have a well-defined role, typically supported by the chief judge and court administration. It's geographically located at the courthouse with easy access to judges. There's joint training opportunities with the judiciary, and they would have access to several criminal justice related databases, including JAWS, Odyssey, Juvenile Justice Information System, et cetera. If the position is placed in the AOC budget, it can become part of their future annual budgets in future years. Some of the weaknesses of court programs is when they're around for a long time, they can become concrete and operational. But obviously, we're in a good position now. We can certainly work with the stakeholders and modify it in the future if necessary. The provider nonprofit position type model, a good example of that is our mental health court liaison, which is actually a provider funded by the county over at Grace Point. They provide a licensed clinician to provide advice, feedback, and guidance to the judiciary. Nonprofits tend to have qualified social services staff, which support their mission. They also have a deep bench, should there be turnover. Nonprofits tend to operate supplemental services such as shelters, mental health and substance abuse services, targeted case management, et cetera. Nonprofits do tend to have issues with turnover, and it could also be an issue in terms of data access and database systems access. We also have examples where we have funded other criminal justice stakeholders' positions. Public Defender's Office, for instance, we fund the Veterans Treatment Court Case Manager, which provides outstanding flow of veterans through the Veterans Treatment System. The county also funds the State Attorney's Office Victims Assistance Program, which has been a foundation here in Hillsborough County for a few decades now. So there's pros and cons to each model. At this juncture, because the budget does need to be finalized very soon, we need guidance from this commission in terms of what model they would prefer moving forward. So in summary, you have a few options, and the county budget office will need to know very soon in terms of what your preferences are.
Excellent, Rob. Thank you.
Commissioner, have we literally decided what it is that we would want this position to actually cover and to do? And do we know, for instance, I was under the understanding that the sheriff's office, if they find that someone's a victim or a survivor, even if they've been arrested, that they provide some services. So I'm trying to make sure that we don't have an overlay or an overlap. So I was just curious, because obviously I support a lot of the things that court admin does through the chief judge. And the difference between the chief judge and myself or Mr. Warren, we're focused a lot on criminal cases, whereas the chief judge and court admin cross civil, criminal, the juvenile justice arena, dependency, delinquency, and so they have certainly a broader aspect to it. So if we were going to be saying that someone was going to be helping this person through the criminal justice system or the juvenile justice system, but also civil actions that may be pending in some way, it makes more sense for me, for court admin, for instance, to be in this. So I'm just kind of curious about what do we envision this liaison covering and avoiding 5, 6, 7 people saying that they're working on behalf of someone and yet not really communicating with each other in some fashion or something of that sort. So for me, I just probably need to understand that a little bit better.
Those are excellent questions, and I appreciate them too, because I had some, and I know that our working group has been addressing some of these issues, but I also found out that in our jails, basically, we had a situation where we had a resource, a nonprofit that was serving to assist in doing some of the identification and the counseling and those kinds of things, only to find out during COVID they hadn't been in the jails for about 9 months. So I find that each has their role, I believe, to some degree, at the jails, there's an opportunity to identify. But once they move to the next level, frequently there are a complex number of issues that a person that's in this position get revealed in the process as they work through the legal process. And so, Rob, would you like to address some of the benefits of the court position when it comes to the JAWS and the JIS?
Sure.
All the acronyms that go along with that.
So, yes, if you were asking me for my recommendation, I agree 100% with the public defender in terms of where's the missing piece of the pie right now. This commission has done a great job over the last year or so to kind of fill in those unmet needs in the community. You have a care coordinator position over at the crisis center, which provides those wraparound and aftercare services. The sheriff's office has their victims assistance staff. State attorney's office has their victims assistance staff. Really, the missing piece of the pie now is that coordinated response over at the courthouse. It's being done in certain aspects, but it will provide tremendous added value to have a single point of accountability, but also in terms of a person whose job it is to keep their finger on the pulse of where the human trafficking system is. As you all know, it's evolved significantly in the last year and a half since this group has been meeting and addressing those unmet needs. So really, if you were to look at the totality of the circumstances, it's that court coordinator, court liaison position that's currently meeting. I'm not a member of this commission, but I have had some discussion with court administration on what that position might look like. And they've put together a draft position description, which would really cover all the things that you just mentioned, Ms. Holt, including having that capacity to jump between dependency and delinquency and the adult court divisions when necessary and needed.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to thank Rob, as always, for his leadership and hard work and diligence on this issue. And I know he's been working with one of our chief deputy court administrators, Angie Smith, and with our court administration. And in advance of this meeting, as Rob has indicated, we've been working on a position description for this position of the staff member who would be able to work across all of these divisions to identify the victim survivors and to connect them with services. So we would plan to use a percentage of the dollars for salary and benefits for this person, and then also ask for some of the money to be in county expense dollars so that we can use it on training for the judges and the staff, and then also for counseling, treatment, housing, and ancillary services for these victim survivors. So that would be our preference to do it that way.
Okay. I don't see any hands raised from those that are in the virtual world in attendance of our meeting, but if you have questions and I don't see hands, wave away. Okay, I see hands waved with Ms. Dottie Grover-Scripper. Would you like to make a comment, please? You're recognized?
Yes, I would. Yes, Commissioner Overman, this is huge, what you have been able to put together as far as hopefully putting this in the budget. We've talked a lot about human trafficking treatment court or survivor court, and I'm just, modeled after the Veterans Treatment Court that is just so very successful. And Chief Judge and Julie Holt, do you feel like this court model might be the closest solution to getting this treatment court? I know it's not going to be up and going, but do you think the closest that we can come to with one of these three models? So that's my first question. And the second, I just want to make a comment that I know the organization that was going into the jails, it was not their choice not to go in during COVID. Right. They wanted to, but they weren't allowed to. So I just wanted to make that clarification.
Exactly. Thank you. Judge Bowman, Judge Figueroa, would you like to respond, or either one of you would like to respond?
So for me, I believe that this type of a position that can actually help navigate across all of the different types of courts and to actually serve the needs of the individual survivor, I think it's, in my opinion, a better model than to create a structured additional court, because in the instance of the Veterans Court, you're talking about individuals that have committed some type of criminal activity, obviously. When I think of survivors, I think that perhaps they might be in the criminal justice system, but more likely than not, they may not be. And therefore, I find that distinction, so I think this is a broader approach to it. There's an assumption on my part that we will continue to use these liaison positions under the umbrella of confidentiality, because there are so many different services and courts that are covered, so I think the confidentiality piece is extremely important. I think I've told you the story of how we're representing someone for a very serious crime that happens to be a survivor. And so obviously confidentiality is important, because we would want to be able to talk to this liaison and do the things we need to do, but at the same time, obviously, they'd have to respect that criminal justice attorney-client privilege. But I see this as a much broader way to do this, and I think it can be very effective. And I happen to find, just from the work we've done with the mental health court, I find the court administrative position to be one that's extremely responsive to all parties. And at the same time, always taking the first priority being the needs first, but then obviously working with all the different stakeholders. So I personally think this is a better approach.
Okay, great. I do have a couple more in the queue, but Judge Figueroa, do you recognize?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I concur with our public defender. I just don't think we are in a position at this time to create a specific trafficking survivor court. I'm concerned with the volume of cases or lack thereof that we would have. I think this is able to, as Ms. Holt pointed out, really identify those people all over the courthouse and be able to coordinate with them for their specific needs. As Ms. Holt points out, they're not all criminal defendants. This person would be able to react, reach out, identify those people, and match them with the services that we need, which is what our goal is, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm very supportive of this model.
Okay, great. I have Connie Rose, then Kathleen Keke, and then Karen Perez. State Attorney Warren, did you have a comment? I just didn't notice whether you raised your hand or not. I'm sorry. No? Okay. Still? Okay, you're still in listening mode. Okay, all right, that's great. Ms. Connie Rose, you're recognized.
Yes, hi, thank you. So I love the conversation that we are having. I think that it's brilliant to have a liaison that is covering every court that's in there, to have like really all the coordinated services. But I do have a concern. And my concern is one of the reasons we started this conversation years ago about what's called options court, for lack of a better word, right now, was so that there was a court where survivors could go in and there were not the buyers in there, there were not the traffickers, there was not anyone else in there. That has been my experience since 2009, since I have been doing this work, is that is one of the things that happens. So how can we take the broader spectrum of the conversation and at the same time narrow it down so that even if it's one day a week, one day a month, that courtroom is nothing but to serve survivors and victims of human trafficking. Because my fear is that we are not going to have that. And there's several of us on here today that have been working on this, that we know the difference and we've seen the difference. And again, not to take away from anyone else's expertise, right? But we have seen the difference when it's a closed courtroom opposed to not a closed courtroom. So what kind of workaround can we do?
Okay, excellent question. And let's do this. Let me keep that question right there and listen to a couple more folks, and then we can have a discussion about those issues as they arise. I'm not saying we're not answering it. I just want to make sure we get all the questions so that we can work through these issues. Ms. Keke, would you like to?
Yes, Connie makes a good point. I mean, that is truly being trauma-informed, right? If we're going to have that type of environment. So I think that we need to look at this and how we are treating people and being trauma informed into what they're going through. But what I wanted to say is I'm so excited about this. This is brilliant because we have been working, as you know, with Chantel and gathering lots of resources and getting those in a place where people can get them. And this will be a great connection between the courts and the services that our 70-something odd human trafficking service providers have in Tampa Bay. And so I'm really, it gets us closer to being able to connect people to what they need with this process. So thank you very much, Commissioner. I think it's great.
Great, thank you. And when you mentioned Chantal, can you actually identify her organization,
Everybody
please?
knows Chantal. Chantal is our human trafficking care coordinator at the Crisis Center.
Excellent.
Who has been working to not only connect victims to services, but also to connect service providers to each other.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that clarification.
Sure.
School Board Member Perez, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. No, I totally love this concept, as we move closer to making sure that the mental health of our victims is always addressed. We're inching our way closer, to be a game-changing county, with Mrs. Holt, and our mental health courts and everything that we've done. Like Miss Rose said, we don't want to re-traumatize our victims as we try to make sure we address their legal needs. But we're inching our way there. We're almost there, to being this incredible county that is, we have these court systems in place to really, really address the needs of our victims. And you guys are doing incredible. This is incredible. I'm just excited to hear about this.
Thank you, Member Perez. I appreciate that. I think to answer both Dottie and Connie's concerns, it would be very helpful to describe a little bit more in terms of what you have listed as a draft for the job description to help what I think I understood, which was this individual would help navigate between the courts when there was complex issues for the victim. So for example, if you've got a human trafficking victim that has, misdemeanor charges related to their issues associated with trafficking or a prostitution arrest, they may also have a theft, or they may have some other related charge, unrelated but related charge. They may also have an issue associated with DCF in the family court. There may be a variety of ways that they are legally entangled in this and need various different level services if we're ever going to develop a diversion program that is successful. And I think that's where having this, in my opinion, from what I heard, we could accomplish that without and I don't believe that, and now tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that this coordinator would actually be, or liaison would actually be doing this in the courtroom with, with other people in the room. But you could correct me if I'm wrong. Rob, would you like to respond to that, please?
Well, I'm sure whoever they end up putting in the position will be trauma informed and know how to handle those cases, whether they're sidebars in an adjacent room or a meeting before court or after court. There are many, many ways to address that, and we already do in mental health court and drug court. There's some very confidential information that's discussed in terms of assessing individuals and referring them to appropriate services. So absolutely, that will be part of the model. I'd also like to add, one of the things we like to do over at the Criminal Justice Office when we're addressing a specialty population like this is when we're designing the system, we want to put in place a series of filters to capture as many people as we can. One of the biggest issues we have with human trafficking survivors is identifying them. In the children's world, in DJJ, We know that they're doing HTSTs, human trafficking assessments on all the kids coming in the system. We don't have anything like that comprehensively in the adult system. So we know that there are people who don't self-report during arrest. There's people that don't self-report when they're being booked. There's people that come through the public defender's office that don't self-report. This position can also act as another filter to reassess and determine if there's another issue that might be human trafficking. And as you indicated, Commissioner, there are many, many, I would say, human trafficking adjacent type charges that, although it might not meet the coercion aspect under statute, they could benefit from some of the similar services. I think about some of the work that Dottie Skipper Grover has done over the years, outreach in the community, linking to those populations. Again, although it wouldn't technically be human trafficking, it might be adjacent, and those referrals and resources can flow through this person as well.
Excellent, thank you. Ms. Perez, your hand is still raised. Did you have a follow-up question?
No, I did not. I just
Okay,
forgot
great.
to take a
Great.
break.
Commissioner, if I might, for just a minute.
Okay, I have Dottie Grover Skipper, and then I have Judge Bowman, I believe, that would like to ask a question. Dottie?
Yes, and I know Connie would agree with this, and I've had talks with Brent Woody, who's also on the call, and I don't know if he'd like to speak up to this or not, but I think we really need to have a survivor in that position. I know the organization that's going into the jails, and also the same organization at one point in time was going out with law enforcement, but I don't know if they still are. It's crucial to have that survivor led initiative, and they have such tremendous rapport with ones who are recently rescued and also just navigating through the system because they've been there. So I just wanted to make that point.
Understood, thank you. Judge Bowman, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for allowing me to attend. So I'm just kind
Could
of
you get a
curious.
little closer to your microphone? We're having difficulty hearing you. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm curious as to what this commission believes the role of option court is or should be, because we've been operating almost 2 years. And like Connie had indicated, our role has been very confidential and discreet. We've worked with survivor mentors for several of our youth. Granted, we have the HT tool available to us to identify some of the youth, but that's always not a perfect scenario. In terms of data, we're looking at cases involving older youth and young adults that have been charged with prostitution over the last few years. And we've been identifying all of the different cases in which they are also involved, kind of the result of their trauma. And we're putting that data together. I know I discussed it before, and we're just to the point about putting those numbers together. So my concern is, one, does this commission want to tie in option court to what it has in mind? And two, how do we want to proceed? And then I would also note that in terms of our option court, the idea is to follow the model of our veterans treatment court, as well as the Miami-Dade Grace Court, and to have a liaison hopefully available to us in order to coordinate. But one of the things, and as Dottie pointed out, one of the most important aspects of dealing with any of these children that are involved in trauma is that they seem to be working with, better than anybody, with a survivor mentor. And fortunately, we have More to Life that has been providing those for us.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I am not, Connie Rose, you're recognized.
Judge Bowman, thank you so much for your comments. I truly appreciate that. And I would love to see us be able to incorporate what you are already doing, the phenomenal work that you are doing with Options Court, and then bringing in some of the components from Miami's Grace Court, you know, there's Tyler Court down in Sarasota, Bradenton area. And how can we bring it all together that what's going to work for Hillsborough County? Because we are very, very different in Hillsborough County than even Miami. And for us to, and the other part of that conversation would be, why not bring together a group of survivors? Let's do a focus group. Let us be the ones who have a SAC committee. Let the SAC committee be the focus group, the Survivor Advocacy Committee. Come together with you, Judge Bowman, and some other folks, and let's really brainstorm what would it really look like? What do you really need? That position, how do we really fill that position? But you're not, I'm just going to say it right here, you're not utilizing some of the expertise that we have where we could really move this forward. You know, we have made incredible strides in the last year and a half with this commission, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But we have been in this conversation about a court for at least 5 to 6 years. And I personally am done just having the conversation. I want to see how do we come together with the focus group and move forward, because we can do that. We're brilliant. We've got all the resources. Now we just have to make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you for your comments. Ms. Holt, you had a comment or a question, I think?
Okay. Well, so I certainly want to, at least today, support that we create this position. I know we can't vote, but I certainly want to, since we started there, I'd like to know that that's where we're headed. We're going to focus on that part of it first. So presuming that that's accurate. I have spoken to individuals from both Miami and Sarasota. My understanding is that the Sarasota model is not working as people thought it was working, and it's because it became more punitive than what I happen to think that Judge Bowman does in his court. And I may be wrong about this. Judge Bowman, I know if you're still on, are not a lot of the cases that come before you because of the dependency court?
Yeah, I'd say the majority are dependency, but there's numerous crossover kids that are involved. So we're trying to work across that board and keeping in mind that our jurisdiction runs through dependency or runs through delinquency. But one of the things and maybe Ms. Skipper or those that have attended could agree with me, but the last thing we want to do is be punitive.
Correct, and so I think there's a huge difference in this part of and I don't have a problem with focus groups or anything like that, but I do think that we have to remember, at least what I thought was this liaison was going to cut across all the courts, as opposed to having a juvenile options court, whatever we want to call it, and then we need to have one in county court, and then we need to have one in circuit court, and that's just not going to happen in my mind right now based on where we are and things. I think the data that Judge Bowman is talking about is extremely important for us to obtain, to see what the numbers are and where people really came from. Because I haven't had to add additional resources to cover the options court, for instance. And usually if the numbers are there that are going to impact the juvenile justice system or the criminal justice system, I always have to add resources. I haven't had to do that. Quite different than Veterans Court, quite different than the mental health court that I had, where I did have to, as you and Mr. Parkinson know, I did have to add resources because you assisted in supporting that. So I think that we have lots of different conversations going right now, and I'd like to at least know that we're going to move forward with the liaison position, because I do believe that that person can reach out to us and say, because we do screen now at the PD's office, by the way, we do screen for the tool, we're using the tool. But if somebody reaches out to us and says, this particular person is so traumatized that they should not be in an open courtroom, we know how to approach that situation with Mr. Warren's office. We know how to approach it with the court. We don't really have closed courts in Hillsborough County, including juvenile courts. When Judge Bowman talks about being discreet, that's what we are. We're being discreet. We're not inviting everybody to the options court, for instance, but we don't have closed courts in this jurisdiction. So I think it's important for us to have perhaps in our work group, some of these discussions, that would be my suggestion today, that we move forward on the liaison position and then obtain the data, and then move from there.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that perspective. I appreciate that. Judge Figueroa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to, recognize Judge Bowman. He's doing an outstanding job with our options court and doing great work. And I want that court to continue. I want to grow that court because Judge Bowman does a great job and he's very, very passionate about that. But I think the point the public defender has made that we're getting these cases from all over. And we need to move forward with this liaison position first. Let's get the numbers. Let's identify the survivors, the victims. And then we can move on from there. And once we've got some numbers that we can hang our hat on, then we can see what we can do from there. And as Ms. Holt pointed out, we don't have closed courts. I do the mental health court and I do the juvenile mental health court, and we take those people individually. So we are very, very discreet. And if there's ever an issue, we don't want to traumatize anyone. Believe me, the judges will bend over backwards to make that work in the different divisions. So I love this liaison position. I think it's a great place. And I know we've been talking about this for a lot of years. Everybody's talking about it for a lot of years. We're making progress. And that's the main thing. We're moving forward. And I thank you for your leadership, Commissioner.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And to the issues that our board members have brought up and the concerns that we have obviously more work to do. Each of our working groups have been discussing some element of this conversation. The challenge I have is, in order to not delay this a whole nother year, with budget season and everything else, and the desire to actually take action, I started investigating based on what I was getting in the way of reports from the working groups, what we were trying to accomplish within the structure of the system that we have in place now. So I want to support this court position as it stands as a starting place for addressing how to best care for those individuals that find themselves in this situation. Human trafficking covers the challenges associated with someone that's been in a human trafficking situation is they've got domestic violence issues, they've got criminal issues, they have children issues, they have the report that we received at the Public Safety Coordinating Council that talked about individuals that had drug and mental health abuse raised the bar, or my perspective, when I realized the cycle that those individuals, when we looked at the mapping of them reoffending, all of the issues that were described in that mapping report were the very same issues that we're seeing in the human trafficking world. And so, getting to a person out of that cycle takes trust, it takes a safety net, and it takes coordination to help them make the choice to move in a positive direction towards healing and hope, right? And since our crisis center is all about that too, along with our other partners, I think we can get there with this position. So for an interim solution, this is a seed funding for this position, with the goal of including it, I believe, under the court system, if you're in agreement with that, so that it can become part of your regular budget. But I wanted to make sure that you had it this year, since you didn't currently have the position available. Is that workable? And then as we move forward with the commission's agenda, we can look at ways that, whether it's the options court model or Ms. Holt, I know you did some research and visited various different cities. Our committee members have been working in this area in terms of how to assist folks under the Judicial and Legislative Affairs and Services and Resources working groups. We can bring back to the table once we see this working or not. But I see there's a great opportunity here. As that can either morph in, that is doing it with the other elements of the support systems that we have in place, or whether or not it needs to be enhanced with an individual course based on the number of cases that are uncovered in this issue. But to Judge Bowman's point, having the data is important. And having the data and access to the various different systems this individual may be in, I think is an important part too. So I'm going to make the recommendation that we move forward on this particular decision unless I hear objections from the judge, because it's dependent on you being willing to actually have this person housed in your world.
Absolutely. No objection.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So, so with that, I would like to urge the working groups as we learn more, we provide you with the job description, we go through the process of developing the criteria for the position, and then bring that person maybe to the commission to talk to each of the members or talk with each of the working groups to help them understand what their role is and what they could do, so that we can then figure out what those other puzzle pieces that may or may not be missing. Okay, Mr. Parkinson.
Commissioner, yeah, I think this model will definitely achieve the majority of what this group wants to achieve, but yet act as a foundation to expand and enhance down the road, depending on what the collective will of this group is. To speak to Dottie and Mrs. Rose's concern about not having a survivor involved, typically when we bring peers in, whether it be in the mental health court or in the drug court or even in delinquency, it's usually a little bit further down the road when they're being wrapped around with services. So again, getting this in as a foundation, then reassessing where do we need peers involved. The peer involvement might be at the crisis center with care coordination, because that's where they're starting to, take a foothold in terms of wrapping around with services. But you don't know that yet. I think having this position will help you better assess what your needs are. And as Ms. Holt indicated, this will give you the ability to work both in the dependency system, the delinquency system, and the adult court divisions, which is vitally important for your bang for the buck.
Excellent. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda, I don't see any more hands, so I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, is our bylaws and issues associated with possible amendments to our bylaws. I know many of you are absolutely committed to everything that you do every single day. And what we've come to realize, especially with those that are either constitutional officers or those in an elected position, frequently have the need, thank you, Mr. Parkinson, I appreciate your help, have the need to have someone stand in their place just because of constant conflicts. So with that, Deborah, are you there? Yep, you are there. I see.
Yes, Commissioner.
Our legal counsel, Deborah Kermati-Mincy, is available to talk about the process of amending bylaws and then what we could consider when it comes to alternates to serve for specific positions on the board. And with that, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone. Currently in our resolution, the resolution that governs this commission, you have non-voting members. They're participants or liaisons. They participate, but they do not vote. What I envision is having your resolution amended so that each of your entities or agencies may select an alternative member or an alternate member who in your absence as the primary member may participate in the meetings and vote in place in case you cannot attend those meetings. Their length of term will be, of course, the same as your length of term. And again, the most appropriate way to make this happen would be to have that laid out in your resolution in an amendment form. We can take that to the board, and of course, the board will approve that going forward. And so that would be, my recommendation.
Sorry, great. So we'll bring a draft document for board consideration at the next meeting that will be based on our calendar that we talked about earlier on October 28th. Does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I can certainly make that happen. Yes, Commissioner.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I wanted to bring that to your attention because those are the three items that I had on my agenda, other than a little bit of a discussion on our working groups. We have an opportunity for each working group to do a member update. But what we found in some of the opportunities for collaboration in these particular working groups, that it would be important for each group to identify themselves, which within each group, either a chair or whatever you want to call the position, but a person that would be able to take a lead, not only for gathering information from the various different members, for providing and a collecting point for gathering the information so that the reporting that's done at each of our board meetings is clear and concise. And they actually also have all the information prior to the working meeting, so that there's an understanding of how to and who to speak to as goals are established and met. And I think that would be very, very helpful for the groups. So I wanted to bring that out for the groups to think about, and the next time they get together to identify a leader of their group, and then determine terms or things along those lines. It doesn't necessarily need to be in our bylaws per se, but it does, I think, for the sake of getting things done and making sure that people are best prepared for serving this commission well. It was one thing that was brought up. The next item on the agenda, although there may be a slight rearrangement here, was a status report and wrap-up data from the Super Bowl by Dr. Heather Curry and Randall Cineas. There, you recognized.
But I'm going to cede my time because I know FKQ is here, and I know everybody has kind of a clock out at 3 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to FKQ to do their wrap-up from the Don't Buy It Tampa Bay campaign.
Okay. And who is representing?
Elisa DeBernardo.
Elisa, you're recognized. Here you are.
Hello, and thanks to the committee for inviting us to the meeting today to present the recap. Let me go ahead and share screen. Hopefully you can see that. We're going to walk you through some slides today. We're going to start with just an overview of the campaigns. Believe it or not, it's been about a year since we first started talking about this and working towards this. So it's really exciting to be back here with the committee and talking about how we can, further this initiative. The campaign did start in November of 2020 and went all the way through June of 2021. We, of course, were focused on the Hillsborough County DMA. We had the Super Bowl in December, January time period where we heavied up around that activity in downtown Tampa and around the stadium and West Shore and International Plaza. And then our sustaining efforts really went beyond that into East Tampa and Plant City and further south regions. We were targeting residents of the greater Tampa Bay area, but of course we know that our visitors were here not only for the Super Bowl, but for WrestleMania and for many other events, and we have visitors coming here, all year long. And then of course, subsequently, we wanted to reach our hotel employees and other businesses where this activity may occur. The creative messaging platform, and we'll get a chance to look at the creative again as we go through the slides and the placements. It was really around building awareness that this is happening in Tampa Bay. If we all remember, the awareness for this activity is very low. And then of course, how to spot the signs or who might be a victim, that kind of awareness was low. So we also wanted to be very diverse in who we depicted as a potential victim, because we know that this can happen across the board. And then it was really paramount to also communicate how to notify the authorities in case there was some suspicious behavior. The next slide here just recaps our objectives and the strategy for the campaign. And we already talked a little bit about this, about raising awareness that the issue of human trafficking is here, what it is, how to recognize the signs, and of course, how to report. The strategy was around educating and really empowering. We wanted to unify the community around this effort. And and kind of create a rallying cry that everyone could get behind. And that's really how we came to the Don't Buy It Tampa Bay. So the media campaign kind of performance recap goes through each of the different placements. If you recall, we had TV, radio, we had out-of-home posters and bulletins, bus shelters, transit shelters. We did car wraps. We even had a mobile billboard, and then we had some print that was all PSA. The media team will walk you through each of those individual placements, Christina and Shauna. And they worked really hard with our partners to make the most out of our small $150,000 budget to get a media value of nearly 400,000 with over 80 million impressions. So a really nice over delivery of around 240%. And again, that really included a lot of PSA weight that was coming from our media partners. So this next slide, we'll talk a little bit about some of our biggest partners in television. And just as a reminder here, we were also able to get Titus O'Neill to help us and become a spokesperson. And he was the one that took on a lot of these live interviews and our 30-second video, which we don't have it in the deck today. They don't always play well over streaming, but you're welcome to visit the website at don'tbuyitTampaBay.com if you want to revisit the video.
Hi, I'm Shauna Sinclair with FKQ. I'm going to walk you through the TV and radio portion of our media campaign. For our television campaign, we partnered with the local NBC station, WFLA, and their affiliate station, WTTA, to provide broadcast, streaming, and digital display coverage. We started the campaign mid-January up to the Super Bowl, and that resulted in 1.6 million impressions. In addition, we were able to negotiate added value in the form of PSA spots, sponsorship with of WFLA's annual Kindness Day. And you can see one of the photos over to the right. Titus O'Neill was actually live on site during the Kindness Day and was interviewed by their news staff, as well as a daytime segment that was airing the week before Super Bowl. Really excited that additionally we were also able to later negotiate one added daytime segment, once again with Titus O'Neill, that aired the week of WrestleMania, which, like the Super Bowl, was another big sporting event that brings people to the Tampa Bay area. Also, through our partnerships in the market, we were able to run 261 additional PSAs across Tampa broadcast stations, which include WFLA, WFTS, WTSP, WMOR, and Spectrum Cable. The next slide will go over radio. For our radio campaign, we partnered with iHeart Station Group, which has 7 of the top rated stations in Tampa Bay. And this campaign similarly ran from December all the way up to the Super Bowl and yielded 3.7 million impressions. Once again, in addition, we were able to negotiate added value and PSAs with other station groups in the market, which resulted in on-air interviews on WDAE and Beasley Music Group's The Current, as well as 549 PSA spots that ran across all major Tampa DMA radio stations.
Yes, so hi, I'm Christina Johnson with FKQ, and I know we are running out of time, so we can speed through the following pages. This highlights the high-profile interstate network that we placed with an outdoor company in Tampa, and it delivered almost 6 million impressions. And we were able to over-deliver in every area of these outdoor placements as well. We also had some permanent bulletins in strategic areas close to the stadium and also in the West Shore district, also delivering 5.6 million impressions up to the Super Bowl. And then a few rotary bulletins that rotated in different locations, also strategically placed throughout Central and East Tampa. And in addition to that, we had some smaller rotary posters also rotating in different areas from December through June. And those delivered over 7 million impressions. And that was a focus on East Tampa primarily. We also had car wraps. We had 10 total, and those targeted routes prior to the Super Bowl in key areas. This campaign ran from November through mid-February, and it over-delivered significantly. We were able to achieve a total of 12.6 million impressions, and we also negotiated 2 weeks of additional bonus exposure with this campaign. The mobile billboards did travel to hotspots within the market. It was a high impact exposure. We did have a couple of different executions here. It did run the week prior to the Super Bowl, and you see the great exposure we did receive around the stadium. And the additional focus was the key entertainment areas just leading up to the Super Bowl. We also had transit shelters that focused on trafficking hotspots in the area. The focus was Central and East Tampa. And this campaign ran from February through the middle of July. And we also negotiated a significant amount of added value in terms of additional units and exposure. And the creative in these areas, they were aligned with the demographics in each area as well. We were able to do that with a lot of our outdoor exposure. We also had a bus campaign, and this was extended by additional bus exposure placed by Hillsborough County. We had a total of 3 buses running with our campaign, but we know that there was an additional transit exposure in the market during this period.
For the digital, we ran a display campaign with the objective of driving people to the website. And for this campaign, we geo-targeted to Hillsborough County with a focus on key areas surrounding Super Bowl events, such as downtown Tampa, Raymond James Stadium, the airport, and West Shore Mall. This resulted in 2.9 million impressions, and added value was negotiated in the form of bonus impressions that ran on local Tampa Bay radio station websites. For paid social campaign, we once again partnered with iHeartRadio to drive people to the website and create overall awareness. This campaign was targeted to Tampa DMA, adults 18 to 65. Our message and creative ran on the local Tampa iHeart station social pages in conjunction with our on-air radio campaign and yielded over 835,000 impressions.
I think you're muted, Christina. I don't know if she can get off mute, but just to touch on this slide, we did get at no charge at all some print placements in Tampa Downtown Magazine, Digest, Tampa Metro Magazine, and Tampa Bay Times. Where the audience was appropriate, we did run messaging for the Hillsborough Heroes program, encouraging businesses to get the free training. And that is the last slide that we have. So again, thank you guys. The creative is really kind of ready to go. We have a lot of diverse executions, so we're excited to see the campaign continue.
Excellent, thank you very much. Quite creative. Well, it looks like you've got great exposure and you hit pretty much every part of the market you could find. So thank you very much for your work. We got a lot out of that. Thank you very, very much. And it's not done. I'll need to follow up with you on a couple of items that I brought up with Hart and to see where we were with the bus wrap campaign. The next items, we have several items on the agenda listed. However, the only committee or working group actually that met was the Services and Resources. So let's rapidly get to that item, and then we can, apparently we don't have any public comment I can take any new business or notes that need to be made. And then, so if there's someone from the services and resources that you guys were able to, you're going to do that?
Yep.
Okay. Dr. Curry is going to do the services and resources report.
And Kathleen, if I misrepresent anything, please hop in and correct me. I know that 211 at your fingertips is still building out their directory, and the care coordinator, Chantal, with the Crisis Center, they've added 65 services and resources to that directory. It's available 24/7 to any victim of human trafficking or any survivor. Also, that the Services and Resources Committee is also focusing on a survey development. They have a subcommittee that's trying to generate what that looks like to figure out how effective the services and resources are, how effectively they're networked, and also the experience for victims and survivors on the other side of that. So we don't know what that will look like yet, but I know that that's in the works. We need to figure out distribution methods to make sure that that gets out there. Finally, I have an announcement that I think is probably somewhat big news, I don't know, but I will actually be resigning from the county, so this will be my last commission meeting that I'll be attending, but it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve everybody here for good things. Yeah, I'm going back to teaching at USF, and I'll be doing some diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting, so.
Well, we're excited for you. However, I'm about to have a meltdown, but that's, because, no, not completely. I want to thank you. Dr. Curry has really carried the lion's share of this, the efforts in making this happen, and I can't thank you enough. Hillsborough County as a whole needs to thank you, and I can offer its thanks. But I'm sure all of the board members have a similar experience with the hard work that you've provided to us and the service that you've given to this county, and I just want to say thank you very much, very, very much. I'll take other comments, and unless there's additional items or future business items that we need to discuss other than what we talked about for October, Dottie Grover Skipper, you're recognized.
Yes, first of all, Dr. Curry, you are superwoman. You really have held this commission together, and I fear it's because there was a lot put on you, and thank goodness Randall came to your side midway through, but you are phenomenal. And just thank you so much for your work and for your friendship and for your passion for this. And I know we're going to continue to see amazing things from you. So thank you, Dr. Curry. Also, I have a couple of questions. The Legislative and Judicial Affairs Subcommittee, would this, might we have further discussion, I guess, in that particular committee regarding the job description for the court liaison? So I'm just wondering where that conversation is going to take place. And one thing that I didn't get to say before Mr. Parkinson left is I strongly believe, and I think a lot of people that have been in the trenches for years with this would agree that a survivor needs to be the front end of any court liaison and mentorship, not brought in after the fact. So I just wanted to put that.
Great. Let me make a recommendation, because I do sit on that committee, but I don't chair it, is that Randall assist us in trying to identify during the month of September a date, because the position would actually begin preferably, shortly after October, I would imagine. So it would be wise that if the working group under Legislative and Judicial Affairs has the desire to put that on that working group's effort, that we work to try and schedule some time in September to have that conversation. Okay.
Commissioner, the only thing I would ask is that if there is going to be discussion, that we get the draft job description in advance so that we can provide written input as opposed to spending an hour talking about the different aspects of it, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Excellent. That can be sent out today. I was provided a draft by Mr. Parkinson in the court earlier today, so I just have it. That's why it wasn't sent out as of yet. But
yeah, I think
there's a draft.
I think they're still tweaking it, I believe. But
There's a draft right now. So as soon as they finish tweaking, at least where that draft looks like, then we can distribute it to the Legislative and Judicial Affairs Working Group, have them take a look at it, and then we can make sure we get it back to the court for approval. So.
And as to the second part of what Dottie just brought up, I think that if we're going to have that type of front-end discussion, probably someone needs to be able to work what I would call a workflow diagram of where is the front end? What do we think the front end is?
Right.
Where do we think it is? Because it could be in so many different places. So I don't know if maybe Connie and Dottie want to, perhaps because they have been in the trenches as long as they have, perhaps they would like to work out some type of workflow type of diagram that would be of help to the rest of us as to where, because I think we're all probably on different pages on some of that part of life. I know where the front end is with the criminal justice system. It's prevention.
Right, and
Right.
And that's sort of where this whole thing is person's position, because of their being able to cross all the different spectrums of the legal system and awareness of human trafficking, whether it be sex trafficking or labor trafficking. We're not talking about just sex trafficking here.
Correct.
We have unfortunately a labor problem as well. And so, you know, that person has to be trained in both of those elements in order to be effective in navigating that person that is in the courts, you know, in the best place for them to tap into the resources to help them deal with the circumstances of which they're in. So I do agree. I'm going to ask Randall to assist and put out a request for dates in September to be able to address those issues, so we can get not only the description finalized with the court's permission, and be able to start interviewing for the position once it's fully vetted by the working group as well as the court. Okay? Does that work? All right. We may ask Mr. Parkinson's to assist us in that particular meeting, so I think that would be very effective. Excellent.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
I hope that addresses that issue. Also, the other working groups, education, awareness, communication and media, services and resources. I urge you to take a look at your calendars so that you can gather your awareness and report or task lists before the October 28th meeting, so we can get that to Randall. And Randall's going to send you a sort of a timeline on the deadlines for that information, so it can be included in the agenda for the October meeting. I'm not seeing any other hands raised or waving. Thank you all for being here today. I really, truly appreciate it. And with that, I'll say the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.